So hey everybody, welcome to the Sermon Talk back at Middle Church. Some of us are online streaming. Hello. We had a really powerful worship experience this morning with stunning music and a bunch of great people here at Middle Church. And we're going to talk a little bit now about the sermon and leadership. I'm Jacqui Lewis, and this is my brother Ron Lewis.
Hi, Jacqui.
Hey, Ron. So, congregation, friends, what did you hear? If I ask, what did the sermon have to say about leadership, what would you say? What did it say about leadership? We're going to use the mic so people on live stream can hear us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Keelan Karanya. I'm a member of Middle. The idea of pulling people in, that's leadership to me. However, we live in a culture that say, you better stay over there. The leader is Jacqui, the leader is Susan, and you yourself, your idea of being a leader, it's squashed somewhere. But when you use that idea of rolling people in, to me, that's leadership. But we don't know how to participate.
Okay.
You know, as leaders and feeling like we are engaged in the process.
That's great, Keely. Thank you. Susan? You had your hand up though, right? Carol? Carol, did you have your hand up? Yeah.
Thank you. I was really glad to hear you say that thing about calling it Obamacare. Because it's not only annoying for the racist implication, it's annoying for the semantics of pinning it on one person.
Yeah.
This is a collaborative effort. It's all about shared sacrifice. So that's what really struck me about what you said. We all have to work together to fight this thing.
Thank you, Carol. Beautiful. Anybody else on that? Yeah. Catherine? Behind you.
Hi, thank you, Jacqui. I thought that was just an incredibly powerful sermon. And the verse, put down your nets and follow me. I don't know how many times I've heard it, and it just struck something about the way you said it and delivered it in the context in which you put it. It just struck me freshly. And I thought, I think I've been in leadership positions in my work a lot in my life and just in general. And I had this moment, an aha moment that I thought, I'd kind of been putting myself in Jesus's position. Like, how does a leader invite people in? And suddenly I heard, no, Catherine, put down your nets and just follow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you. I think that's great. Yeah.
You being arrested, and I'm delighted that you're okay. They let you go. When you talk about us being leaders, I take it very personally. I don't feel like a leader, but I need to get organized in how I want to protest. There are only so many petitions I can sign, and now it's like if you give money to one, everyone wants money because they see you as a money giver. Right. I can't go on all the trips. It's important for me to hold a job and to take care of me and Malika. But I do want to stay in. I don't want to, it's easy to be complacent.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm eager to not do that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karen. I think one of the things we want to make sure we get to before this is all over is how do we lead from where we are? Like how is each of us a leader? Kind of to Kaylee's first question, but how do we lead from where we are also? How do we use our own nets, each of our own nets to lead? Ishmael? And then Sandy.
I don't know, I've been involved in a movement since high school, Vietnam, and all through college, and then from many different avenues, from Palestinian rights to anti-Klan to racist, obviously, and gay rights. But I've never put myself really in the line, really. And I said to you when I hugged you, I'm in my 60s, and I've never been arrested, and I've never gone that far, never taken it to the next level. And I just feel that there's something that's holding me back. I mean, I'm involved, and I am involved from a distance, and keeping that distance, and maybe it's time to like break that distance.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Ash. Okay, maybe Sandy and then maybe Lila. And then maybe
I just
Ronald?
want to emphasize your question. I feel that a good leader, what constitutes a good leader? A good leader can also be a good follower.
Amen.
Because my grandfather, he was a warrior and a soldier, and he taught us that when the front of the line fall down, the backup leads the falling of the line. So I think that a good leadership, you can be a good follower in terms of being a good leadership.
That's awesome, Sandy. I think that's so important. When do we lead? When do we follow? What does it look like to do both? Hello, new member class. What we're doing right now is commenting about what we heard in the sermon about leadership, okay? Lila? And then we'll see if anybody had maybe a couple more, and then we'll go to Ron, okay?
First, I want to say thank you for being a power of example. I like today in the messages for all ages when the question was asked, what are the characteristics of a good leader?
Yeah.
The word may have been too big for them, but they had an image.
Yes, they did.
And they came up with Martin Luther King and other people. So they have an ideal of what leadership looks like.
Yeah.
Right? So I had the opportunity to watch the video because you was talking about how they kept making the announcement, going once, going twice, going 3 times.
Yeah.
And, please leave.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be arrested. Please leave or else you're going to be arrested. And then at some point in the video, they said, those that don't want to be arrested, step to the side. So you got a choice, right? Either you're in or you're out, right? And Jacqui, next thing I know, Jacqui was being handcuffed. I was like, okay, there was a conscious decision there.
I was talking.
Right, I was talking. There was a conscious decision, like, you know what? I'm not going to let that obstacle right there, that barrier, get in my way. I know what my purpose is, and I'm here to fulfill that purpose, right? So I thought that was a great example of a leader, and thank you for saying what you said, because sometimes we question how far will we go, and what is our personal sacrifice, all right? I wish today that I could get arrested for civil disobedience, right? But just because of some other stuff, that might not be a good cause, right? And so thank you for being able to step up in that way.
Thank you, Lila. Okay, Allie? Rahima, you get to do all the mic moving. Okay, and then over here, yes.
I just wanted to say something more to what Lila just said. I thought it was really interesting that she asked the kids, what are the qualities? It doesn't matter what the word was. I thought to myself, what does make a leader? I mean, I couldn't think of anything, so of course I could think of examples. Right. That's why I'm here right now. I think it's really interesting for us to consciously think of what really does constitute leadership.
That's beautiful, Allie. Thank you. Hope we can get to that. Hi.
Hi. My name is Lawrence.
Hi, Lawrence.
I'm not a member yet.
Yet. I like the yet. Lynn, yet.
So while I was sitting here, I read the reading from Mark and read a few verses before the reading. And before Jesus went to the Sea of Galilee, before his Galilean ministry began, John was arrested. John the Baptist was arrested. And I guess that was after the temptation of Jesus. Now, after John was arrested, Jesus came to Galilee proclaiming the good news of God, saying the time is fulfilled and the kingdom of God has come near. Repent and believe in the good news. The other thing I was thinking about was that the people he called were ready to go. They were networkers of different sorts, casting nets or repairing nets. And he was saying, let's be networkers of men, people.
Yeah, good.
I was in the march in January, right after the inauguration that went up Fifth Avenue. I didn't even know what we were doing. I heard there was a rally at Union Square, and suddenly we were walking up Fifth Avenue and got to Trump Tower and stood there at the police line, and now what? and there was some young guy yelling, "Let's go, let's go, let's break through the police line." And I said, "Well, you go first, and I'll follow you." And he didn't want to go. And I've never been arrested. And I had wondered what would I do? When will I be ready? When will be a good time? And later I said to this kid, well, I'm sorry, but we'll probably get other chances. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to be arrested, but
Yeah. Let me
cast the.
Let me make a bridge between what
okay.
Lawrence just said and John's talk, and just catching the new members up. What we're doing is just responding to what did the sermon tell us about leadership. I'm going to just make a little bridge and ask Ronald to talk about leadership, okay? Just from a couple of things you said. Everyone's not called to be arrested. Amen. I think leaders are called. So in my the doctoral dissertation, Alex, can you stay 10 more seconds? Okay, 10. I want to answer your question. Here's what in the book Leading Minds, Howard Gardner's book, Leading Minds, was one leadership theory that I studied when I was writing my dissertation on leadership. So there's like a few theories. One is leaders are born, and if you're born a leader, you're a leader. Or leaders are made. They're made because they're a product of their time. So a born leader might be Martin King, or a product of his time might be Martin King, right? Can leadership be taught? Absolutely. And the theory that I love the most is leaders tell compelling stories to change the stories in the minds of followers. King, Gandhi, Jesus, right? Margaret Thatcher, Fannie Lou Hamer. I can articulate a vision of a preferred reality that you can see, and I can help you find your way in it. That is what leadership is. I can help you cast yourself in a role in the healing of the world. I love that idea. And Gardner says leaders tell these stories, and the ones that really satisfy us the most, Allie, are the ones that answer our existential questions. We want to know that life matters. Remember the time you and I were talking, and you said, I'm beginning to get this Jesus thing now, like this Jesus as a leader, right? This Jesus as a rabbi. I was able to articulate a story about that fit for you, who you are as a human being. And that's the job of a leader, is to recruit people into this movement for justice and love and a heal world by inviting them into this story that fits for them. It makes sense that we all have something to do. So that was my intention today, not that everyone has to be arrested, but that all of us have to be outraged enough, out of our minds enough, discontent enough with the status quo to try to do something about it. So more on that, Allie. I know I held you prisoner, but I wanted to say, hey, that's what I think. Okay. Man, thank you, sweetheart. I love you. Ron, what do you think? What is leadership?
Thanks, Allie. First off, Jacqui, that was an amazing sermon today. I can't believe you played Walk This Way. And I too have, Lawrence, never been arrested, and don't really intend to do that.
That's not your job.
Right now. It's not my job. But what I would say out of today's sermon, though, first off, just the scripture, the 1 Mark 16-20, simple command, right? Follow me. Follow me. It's pretty direct, and from a military perspective, that's pretty clear. But how do you get people to follow you is really the better question. And to Allie's question, what is leadership? How do you get people to follow? Why did you all follow Simone, and why did you all follow them to Washington, D.C.? What was it about them that made you go?
Right.
I would offer, just as we are having this discussion, a lot of that was inspiration.
Right.
They inspired you. They inspired you. They were heading towards a common goal that you bought into. It might have been what's going on with this bill.
Right.
It might have been, hey, we need to get off of this beach and get to safety. So follow me and do as I do. As a matter of fact, in the infantry, that's the motto of the Army infantry, is follow me. It was coined by a guy by the name of Major General Aubrey Newman, landing on the beaches in 1944, World War II. They're under fire, and it was, okay, we're getting off this beach, follow me. But again, why did people get up and follow him? And I think that's a question for us. Common goal, shared sacrifices. You got arrested.
Yeah.
Jack,
Yeah.
you know. Shared sacrifices, shared danger, demonstrated competence, and trust in that competence. I think those are all reasons why we follow people. And I'd also say, how do you recognize a leader? How do you recognize the leader out there? Is it just because he's or she is wearing the rank?
Yeah.
Is it because they're out in front? Is there such a thing as leading from the middle? Is there such a thing as leading from behind? Those sound like they're negative. I mean, we've had some negative words about those kinds of principles, but how do you recognize the leader in formation, in what they're wearing? Is it just because you're wearing a cross? Is it because you have the ring on? Is it because you're wearing the rank? I'd offer that the answer to those are no, an obvious no, that it's not just because of those kinds of things. Those may be the beginning, right. But you've got to demonstrate competence. You've got to demonstrate empathy. You've got to be the example, the beacon, so that when they actually see what you're doing, they're compelled to follow you, to respect you. There's an adage out there, too, of people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I think that just makes sense, right? So those who are empowered to take care of their subordinates, their people, their followers, right. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right. So I really took a lot out of your sermon today. I've got some additional thoughts about leading from the middle and. Okay, I don't have to be the biggest, the fastest, the strongest, as the kids talked about today with soccer. Yeah. But I motivate people, I inspire people, and I've got them heading towards a common goal that we all bought into, and away from this danger or this fear or this peace that we're countering. So, I mean, that's some initial thoughts for you on what I took away from today.
I love what you're saying, and I want to make sure people know that this is retired General Ronald Lewis of the U.S. Army.
Thank
you. You've had to lead in some hot and fiery times. I want to come back to that. One of the things you said, Ron, that's so interesting to me, we're going to get off this beach, follow me. So that we're going to get off this beach is a pretty compelling story. It's got a beginning and a middle and an end. We're going to get off this beach, follow me. I loved what you said about a shared danger, or Ronald Heifetz is another one of my leadership theorists that I really enjoy. Ronald Heifetz, Leading from Within is his book. So he would say that leaders are able to create a sense of urgency in their followers. So in that beach metaphor, you've got, honey, it's hot here, in this particular political climate, to be able to create a sense of urgency can counter the sense of almost like a shared depression. I think much of the nation is in a kind of a shared, can we really do anything about this? How would it be? So a fiery sermon or a narrative story, like I showed a story. You show a story of people standing outside looking happy. You show a story of them in handcuffs, and then you show a story of them out again, like without saying anything. That's a story. So creating a sense of urgency and that shared danger, that shared quest, I think, Ron, implicit in what you're saying also is creating the sense that the leadership is diffuse. And maybe that takes us back to your middle end. Like, I'm not the leader. I'm in leadership. And so the leadership at middle is me and Shanta and Kent and the board and the elders and the deacons and the staff and you. The shared leadership is not just the head pastor in charge, or the HNIC, right? Somebody might say, yes, I said it, but we are all, hey, I'm a black girl, but from my culture, but we all are leaders, is my intention. Carol Wisbicki is an example of a person who, a few years ago, thought, I would really like us to have a literary magazine. I was like, okay, then let's have one. Which is to say, go do it, and she did. And lots of you do that. So that, I think, is just kind of beginning, middle, end. So let me just toss it back to you and see what you're thinking.
Pick up on
Sure.
two pieces that you
Yeah.
said. One, the leadership team, and you laid out your team.
Mm-hmm.
I found over the years that, to me, it is much better to lead an organization that is bound to not let the team down. Doesn't want to let the leadership down. Doesn't want to let the leader down. Not they're scared, they fear the consequences.
Right.
Okay, in military organizations, sure, there's some of that. But if they're inspired, they bought into what the goals are of the team, they don't want to let the team down, this band of brothers, they're going to work harder.
Yeah.
They're more bought in. They're not doing it just out of fear. People who do things just out of fear, they're just going to do what you told them to do. And that's it. Right. Exactly. To the letter, that's it. Not more. They don't feel empowered to take the vision and run and move and try to make the team better. So applaud you for really bringing that point up. But I think that's a key part of leading teams, is that buy-in, commitment to the team, don't want to let the team down, don't want to let the leader down. That's therefore I perform better. I do more.
Yeah.
The second piece you said was about looking like you're dismal and just depressed and gloom and doom. I had an opportunity to talk at the pre-command courses a lot to our upcoming battalion and brigade commanders, our lieutenant colonels and colonels. And I used to tell them, hey, listen, everyone is watching you. Everyone in the formation is watching you. Now, that's a little more hierarchical and that kind of thing, but they're watching you. And they actually aspire to be to you someday in this hierarchical kind of organization. So what do you think they would think about your job and being the commander or leader of this formation if every day you look like you're having a horrible day? You've got gloom and doom on your face. God, I don't want to be him or her. So they actually are watching you. And they're watching us out here in the world. So why would I want to come join Middle? Why would I come join Christianity? Why would I want to come do that when it looks like they're having a bad day every day?
Yeah.
So I think there's something to that.
I think that's a really important point, Ron. And I would look at the congregation and I would say one of the characteristics of Middle's Christian community, let's say, is that we're not just Christian, right? Yeah, nodding. Also, this is like a joyful place. Sometimes people criticize us for being too joyful. Like, I'm having a bad day. I got to sit in the balcony, you know? But I'm like, I just need some air. But I do think that there's something that's sort of, there's someone at the door, Eric. I don't know if you want to tell him to go around. Sorry, yeah. I think that, Ron, let's just say if all of us are fishing for people, like in the old-fashioned church, they'd call it discipling. Discipleship. Whisper it with me. Discipleship. Okay. Discipleship, right? Or evangelism. Woo! When I was in seminary, I took an evangelism class, Ron. One professor, he's a sweetheart. His sister was one of my best friends. And he was like, yeah, we're all called to evangelism. And I was in seminary, and I said, I hate the word evangelism. I am not called to evangelism. That's on camera. I'm not called to evangelism. Why? Because in my mind, evangelism was some kind of like tract passing out, you know, I'm sorry, Jehovah's Witnesses on your desk with the thing, with the book, and the two people, and, you know, and everybody's teeth were white. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't believe in their worldview. I didn't understand the tactic. I didn't believe in the strategy. I wasn't in it. But of course I'm an evangelist. I started a brand new church. You know, of course I am. But in that way of telling the good, joyful news, just kind of picking up on that, what does it look like to be a part of the movement? If Jesus' movement is a movement, I can't imagine Jesus saying you can't be in the movement. Ridiculous. Okay? So I wasn't trying to do that. only way, only truth, only life. Unless you stand up, sit down, fight, 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 you can't be in the movement. So now that I understand that God is, like, the door is wide open, I can be an evangelist. Like, I can recruit. I can recruit people to a movement that's joyful, in which everyone is welcome just as they are as they come through the door. I can recruit. So I can recruit to an organization that's got both a vertical sense of, like, let's be better inside ourselves, but also a horizontal sense. So those are three pieces. We can't lead something we don't believe in. We can't be leaders in something that isn't coherent with our worldview. And we can't lead something that feels like it contradicts the rest of our lives. So Gardner would say, people are watching us to see if our lives are coherent with our talk, sure. Which is why we're calling the sermon series Walk the Talk. Does that make sense? What do you think about that?
Yeah,
my
there
brother?
can't be a say-do mismatch. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
I also think you have to be competent in that area in which you're leading, right? You have to have done the iterations. You have to be trained up. You have to be studied up.
Yeah.
And again, this is not just military. This is
life
here in our. Yeah. It's in life. It's in church. You know, we need to be studied up. We need to be trained up. We need to be incredibly competent. Or you're not going to gain the respect. No one's going to watch. You have to have done the iterations. You have to have done your work. You have to have done your training, so that when the time comes where you're leading America's sons and daughters in combat, you're leading the march. Yeah. You're leading Sunday school. Whatever it is, you're trained up. You're well versed. You're competent when it's time to lead. So. Yeah. I think that's right. And I think middle people are thirsty right now. Catherine taught a Bible study recently. Marta's getting people together. There'll be more Bible studies happening. We had a racial healing task force this year. Our Erasing Racing class. I think our people are thirsty, Ron, for give me the tools, give me the words. Don't let me just say middle's a place of love, but tell me why. Why are we okay with LGBTQ? You know, so your point about that. I think just to introduce another thing about leadership, I've been playing in my head with the idea of what it means to lead these days and us to having a capacity to be on the border. So what I mean by that is this guy, Virgilio Elizondo, not to drop a bunch of names, but you want to look him up, Virgilio Elizondo. He just died about last year. He wrote a book called The Galilean Journey. Holy cow, that went away. The Galilean Journey, and he was writing about Jesus as a border person. So he believes that Jesus is the Son of God, right? And he believes that God chose to come to humankind purposefully in multiracial, multicultural flesh. That being a Galilean, being a Jew in Palestine was to be a multiracial, multicultural person. Like, look in those genealogies, and you're like, oh my God, Rahab is here, Moses is here, you know? So the Jews are Afro-Semitic people. And he says God chose that particular body to come to so that we would understand right there in the body intersectionality. And then he says, and so also the Tex-Mex people, that they're on the border, and they're on the border on purpose. And that they're developing a third race. In other words, this misogyny, let me make sure I'm saying it right. Miscegenation, mixed raceness is a gift, he's arguing. So also Jesus, so also all of us. So I'm like, well, I don't know what my little ethnic background is because I haven't done 23andMe, but I am a border person, as opposed to my friend Kent, who's white and European. But I'm a border person, and I think I've cultivated that. I think, Ronald, we grew up as border people in Mom and Dad's house. So I am both the blackest chick and also have a little white girl inside me, right? From growing up on the Air Force Base. Don't freak out, a little bit. I am both classical music and hip-hop. I am both American and global. I am a really girly girl. A lipstick straight girl, hello? But
I am my father's son in some ways. Right? So I'm a little trans going on. A little trans going on. So border space is a space for leaders. What do you think about that?
I think that...
Not that trans, Ronald.
No, I got it. I like that. I like that a lot. And I'm blaming our parents also for... No, I am. For the diversity that they put into our lives, right?
Yeah.
They put us in places where performance mattered more than how you looked.
Yeah.
They always preached no ceilings, no end to what you can achieve. Mom, when I was a little rugrat, said, "You're going to be the greatest. You'll be president someday."
Oh, no. You got to
Right?
pause. No. Don't go by that. When Ronald was my little brother, he's my first little brother that I was old enough to be conscious. We're 6 years apart?
We are.
Yeah, 6 years apart.
We are.
And so when he was gorgeous baby, God, gorgeous baby, till he, I won't tell that story. But anyway, he used to stand in the playpen and Mommy would have him go, "I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest." So she was sticking in him, projecting onto him. So he would introject that he was a leader when he was a knee baby, 18 months, 24 months old.
I'm blaming our folks for that. And please don't tell too many more of my baby stories and sermons and stuff. But I think there's something to that. And I think when you bring that to the table, you are your experiences.
Yeah.
You do project your beliefs and you project confidence. And our military is made up of all walks of life. I mean, everyone from everywhere, and people came to America just to get their citizenship and join our military. You can't lead them by being a binary, singular focused. This is who I am. I mean, you can't do that.
Right.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
So I think there's something to the diversity piece. The other thing I'd say is, I don't know if Jacqui's ever told this story, but Jacqui dropped me off. I went to West Point, and I'm happy to have done that. My older sister dropped me off at the academy on July 1st, 1983. And we have been very,
Mommy
very,
and Daddy
very...
were away.
They were worried. They were on a
Doing the
trip.
work.
They were on a
Yep.
vacation, and they needed to do that. They needed the break. So older sister Jack drops me off and spent registration day and with me. And
They cut off your fade.
They did. Cut off my little tiny mustache that I had
Your 3 hairs.
coming out of high school. But Jacqui dropped me off, and we kind of had a bond. She was with me at the very beginning of this in 1983, and that was when I always loved her to death, but she became like really a good friend, not just big sister Jacqui. When we started relating as adults.
Yes.
But the academy does a great job of teaching leadership, and there are some great leaders that came out of the academy. Again, back to just because you have the ring, the rake, the cross, that does not make you a leader. It doesn't. But I also found that in that leadership development at the academy, to me, the best leaders remained who they were throughout that process and came out on the backside and still were who they were when they grew up. They didn't try to take on, I'm going to be Patton, I'm going to be MacArthur, or the leadership model says this is the way you must do things. They bring to the table some of the way that they grew up, some of their own backgrounds, their diversity, their borderness, to take your term. And I think that that's something to be remembered and makes for very good leaders. Don't forget where you came from, your background. Bring those gifts to the table. You don't have to try to copy someone else's gifts. And just amplify those.
I think that's right, Ron. And there's something that you say often to me. So also the leadership challenge is to help the people who are in our care, in our circle, the people we're mentoring, to find and be their best authentic self, what we're talking about. So I had a really beautiful talk with Lynn the other day about coming more back into myself. Remember, Lynn? Just a kind of like, it's been a really wild year. with mom dying and the getting ready to die and all of that. And so in some ways, I could feel, I'm not going to say inauthentic, because that's not right, but I'm just talking about a kind of way that we, under stress, all of us as human beings, can be fractured, and you're not as coherent. You feel me? You're like this as opposed to like this. And I feel back like this. And I think our job as leaders is to help people to find their lane. That's why I'm going like this. What's my lane? What are the gifts I have in that lane? How do I help you? I'll tell a story about Christina. I picked her up. I pick up people. But I picked Christina up as a young adult looking like she knew what to do with young adults. She just was like Miss B for young adults. And I asked her, would she help me grow a young adult ministry? And she told me later, she walked out the door and she laughed at me like, ha, 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 nice lady asking me to do this. But I could see her. And she did do that. She took her clipboard and she walked around here and she picked up people and she grew a young adult ministry. But I also could see past that. She's like a stunning journalist. So she's our evangelism minister, because we don't have one. We have a minister for communications, because we understand communications is evangelism. So to be able to see what people have, to be able to help them define the thing they have, also to help them know what they don't have, which is harder, but also important. Like, here's where I see you shining. I think leaders also have to help other leaders find their real footprint.
I think that's outstanding. Best teams, you get the best of everyone.
Yep.
Everyone can play. I may not be able to play third base well, but I'm a pretty darn good outfielder. Let me play you an outfield. And that's the role of a leader on a team.
Yeah.
Get the best out of everyone, play them in the right kinds of positions,
Yeah.
keep the sports metaphor going, and I think that's a critical piece. Now, you talked about Christina walking around with her clipboard. You talked about figuring out where he or she might fit in. Good model to look at, I think, when you're taking over organizations, joining large, complex organizations. I always kind of think about assess, decide, implement, assure. Assess, decide, implement, assure, as a model. And that assessment phase, I think, is so critical.
Yeah.
What do the stakeholders want from us? What are our roles and missions? What's expected of us? How are we doing? What's our grade right now? What's the talent look like? What do we have?
Good.
What
Yeah.
positions should people be playing?
Yeah, yeah.
What's our report card right now? And you can't just jump in and start ordering and pointing, and you'll get it wrong,
Right.
I think.
Okay, that's
So
really
that
good,
assessment
Ron.
phase, I think, is critical. Then deciding, okay, given that I've got a pretty good idea of this team, this organization, this church, this unit, given that I've taken the time to do assessment, I'm deciding on where I'm taking us. We're on this azimuth. We want to be known by, here's our motto, here's where I think we got to go.
Yeah.
So decide, implement, how are you going to do that? What are the measures? Are there organizational changes that are required? Do you have to move people around? How are you going to now do that? And then the final piece is assure. What are your ways of checking to make sure that what you thought would work is actually working?
Right.
What are those return measures, those
Right.
measures of success? What are you using to make sure that you're heading on the right path and that you're hitting those goals that you thought you should hit?
Yep.
And then do that again. So just a way
That's
of taking
great.
over organizations that may be a useful model for people.
I love that. I love that. I love it. I love that. Very practical. I'm thinking about this crazy book. Do you guys know this book called Jesus CEO? It's a great book, right? Like, it's looking at the kind of leadership model of Rabbi Jesus. And so I was just going in my head, assess, walking around the countryside, checking it out, decide, I'm going to get in the pool and be baptized by John, I'm going to do this thing. What was the third one? Implement, recruiting 12 folks and going around preaching, teaching, and then assure is sort of evaluation. He gets to the end of his life, he's like, hey, you guys, I'm leaving you in charge. Go make disciples of all the nations. That kind of works,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
it absolutely does.
I wanted to try to bring us back to a place where maybe we can engage you guys again after I take Ronald around one more round. I wanted Ron to ask you to talk about your faith. I mean, these guys get to hear me talk about my faith almost every Sunday. And I think you're clear that I'm a universalist Christian but universalist, believing God is magnanimous and able to speak more than one language. And why not speak something else? Why not speak Hindu? Why not speak Buddhism? Why not speak science of the mind? Because I think God wants everyone in the love army, and by any means necessary. Amen. And I think you might know, Ron, that I don't believe in, like, God's will is why mommy died, or God's will is why Trump is in office, or I just think that we have been created free, like we're free radicals, so to speak. And just like free radicals can give you cancer, free radicals can bomb each other, free radicals can hurt each other, free agents can make mistakes, and we live with the mistakes of free agents. And I think God is this amazingly beautiful presence that kind of stands back a bit, like from a distance, from a distance, and just like goes, hey, oh, look at Kaylee, you did a great job, but not like puppeting. I wish I still believed everything was God's will. In some ways, that's a simpler position. In some ways, that's a simpler position. But it doesn't really work for me. I think we have will and we make mistakes. So I don't ever blame God for bad stuff. But I gotta tell you, every time you were flying a helicopter someplace around the world, every time you were in the air, or when you were in Iraq or Afghanistan, I was praying always that God's will was to bring you home safe, because I love you. So what about your faith?
No, I love you too, and I appreciate that. And those prayers are important. I think a few things. I think that you mentioned big heart when you talked about your friends calling you to Washington as you're describing them. And I think that a leader's heart, a commander's heart, I talk about is important. It doesn't replace the competence and the training and everything that needs to be done.
Right.
But you've got to be pumping the right thing, I think, to be a leader of America's sons and daughters in combat. I think you've got to be pumping the right thing in your heart, which means you've got a good faith-based, you believe in something higher than yourself, and you believe in the right causes, and you've got to be pumping the right thing in your heart, and that starts to come out.
Yeah.
And I call it like commander's heart, makes you empathetic.
Empathetic, good.
It makes you first go, you know what, maybe something was wrong with the way I ran this organization. Maybe my training wasn't really good. Maybe I didn't set this person up for success. That's why they fell a little bit short. It makes you look introspectively first, as opposed to looking for, okay, you just screwed up, you just messed up, you're getting hammered. Right. It makes you look inside first, and it gives people second chances, and it gives it makes you wonder, what you did to set them up for success, because you're actually the leader. Right. So I think that's important, and I think that that's actually religious as well.
Yeah.
I think that, I believe in the, treat others as you'd like to be treated is hugely important. And I think if you follow that, that again makes you inspirational and draws people to you and gains that respect that's needed for them to actually follow you, not just because of what you're wearing. I would say that there are many a times, listen, when we've had a tough decade and a half for our military. We just have, okay? We've had young men and women post 9/11 to sign up over and over and over again to go do our nation's bidding overseas, put themselves in harm's way over and over and over again. That puts a lot of stress on our young soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines. It just does. You can't imagine, 22, 23-year-old, 19, 20-year-old who should be looking forward to the next date or great adventure or playing golf or whatever it is that they're looking forward to. They've got to go be away for a year with bullets being shot at them, and wondering whether or not they're going to come home. And then watching their buddies not not make it back or whatever.
Right.
So that's a tough piece for our troops.
Yeah.
And I'm not feeling sorry for them. We're all volunteers, and they're so resilient and outstanding. I mean, they get through that over and over again. But I'm convinced that you get through that by being prayed up, by knowing that you're okay. That if something happens to me, I know where I'm going. Right. My family's in good shape. I think you've got to have a pretty strong faith to be able to get, I think, as a leader, to be out in front in that kind of environment where people are watching you when the bad things happen. If you're not straight with the person upstairs, if you're not straight, then I don't think you actually can make great decisions. I don't think you're in a good space, and that you start cracking. You start showing cracks and fissures, and so that I know that got me through the deployments, knowing that I was prayed up, I was in good shape, I knew where I was going to go if something happened, and that my family was in great shape.
Yeah.
That's about as.
And
that we were trained and ready.
Yeah, trained and ready.
So I don't want to put it all on just everybody pray.
Right.
Everybody pray, but everybody train and get ready and set and be competent and do the things that we're being asked to do as an organization. Yeah. And I think the two of those are very important for inspirational leaders.
I think that's right, Ben. I think it's right. John and I watched a movie yesterday called Battle Scars. I was flipping around and looking for something to watch. It's a beautiful movie to watch. It's an indie film, and it's on cable now. I don't know what. Do you know what it is, John? It was on cable. Battle Scars, an indie film about a soldier who came back from, it didn't tell us the war, but we assumed Iraq or Desert Storm, and he looked whole. And I won't tell you the rest. I'll just say he looked whole, but he wasn't whole. And I do think there's a lot of that happening in the military, but also right here, I think activists are traumatized. Sure. I think activists are traumatized. Our young Black Lives Matter activists are traumatized. And I think faith is, someone asked me, were you afraid when you were getting arrested? Yes, I was afraid. It was weird. And the handcuffs hurt. And we were all shouting, and then suddenly middle Mr. Policeman next to me had me by the elbow, and I thought, am I shouting right now? No, I'm not choosing to shout. I'm not choosing to shout. Because I don't know if he's gonna, I don't know what his deal is. Maybe he doesn't like shouting black girls with dreadlocks. I don't know. So we had a nice quiet talk about healthcare down there on my perk walk. I was like, hi, my name's Jacqui, and what's yours? And TJ, and let me tell you about healthcare, let me tell you we're here. I told him all the things in a normal conversational tone. Because But it's hot. You get in the van, it's hot. Your face is right next to the metal, it's hot. We were in the van, hot. Seat belted in, hot. And me thinking, wow, okay, this is how it is. And they were being gentle with us, and I hurt myself sitting down. A really heavy-set guy hurt himself getting out. It was wild. So we were singing Lean on Me. We sang Like a Virgin, because some of us were rest virgins. We sang Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around. We sang ourselves to peace. What I'm saying by that to say is, even with rock-solid faith, fear, right? Even with rock-solid faith, there can be fear. And I think fear is our normal reaction to make ourselves safe. But at the same time, there's something about moral courage, which is what I think you're talking about. And moral courage, I don't think is the same thing as not being afraid. Right. I think you can have normal human being fear and have moral courage. Yes. And the moral courage is, will I step out toward the thing I know is right? Will I step toward the right thing, even though I'm afraid? Not because I'm not afraid, but even though I'm afraid, will I step out on the right thing?
I think that's well said.
Yeah.
I think that's well said.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Should you guys want to ask us a couple of questions or weigh in? I want to give you a hand, Ron, for coming. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Love you very much. Love you very much.
Hi, I just want to say very few words. One of the things that impressed me a lot, Jacqui, when you said you didn't go there to be arrested, and I just want to be cautionary and also really underscore what Ron said. you're guided by your heart, but you also have to be guided by your head. As
Absolutely.
us old veterans of the 60s know,
Right.
the first person that says, storm the police, no, no, no.
Right.
You have to know who your leaders are.
Yes.
You have to know the circumstances
Yep.
you're in, the family you're in,
Yep.
and be guided. Get that mental, critical thinking going, because that's what's going to give you the right direction to go in. Being arrested is not a goal.
Yeah.
It happens because it happened to be happening in that particular circumstances.
Yeah.
But
That's
be
right.
very, 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 very careful. I know a lot of people that got in a lot of trouble
Yeah.
because they wanted to be brave
Right.
and they weren't thinking.
Thank
So
you,
I
Susan.
just
That's-
wanted to
that's
add
right.
that because
Yeah.
a lot of us have a lot of scars.
Yeah, really important thing to say. Really important. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Jerry, and I'm not an official member of the movement.
You're not yet?
I'm
What?
still,
Are you still dating us?
because I'm not a universalist, Jacqui.
Okay.
But, but I still believe in come one, come all. I have a question for you, sir. As a follower of a military leader, it's just diverting the subject a little bit. But like when you're on a football team and the coach prays, that the God's on your side, we're going to win this game. Well, the armies are doing the same thing, right? The God's on their side and this and that. Faith comes into you mentioned faith when you know that you're good with God or whatever. You're not so worried about what's going to happen after or if you get hurt or killed. What do you advise? What would you advise a soldier to do in a situation where he believes the leader or he knows the leader is leading him into the wrong thing?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that takes moral courage also, right? It does. There are ways to go about making sure that is known, and I would advise soldiers to make sure that they go about those ways to make sure that is known.
You're a lower rank.
I understand that. I understand that. So first off, there are channels to get to the chain of command. There are. Inside of the chain of command, every soldier has a sergeant. The sergeant then can talk to the first sergeant, who can talk to the commander. So the word can get up and should get up. Every soldier should be getting counseled by his first line supervisor. And in that counseling, I would expect and hope and advise that if something were wrong, I think that it's wrong, because let's be honest as well. If you just got in at 18, you have 1 year experience in the military versus 30 years of experience, you might not have it exactly right. You might believe you're being led into the wrong direction. You might believe that, and you should voice that, and that voice should get up to the top. It should. And in the case where that's correct, hey, everyone's turning a blind eye to this. We all know this is wrong. This is against regulations. This is against what our code says. We all know this is wrong. I'm not going to participate. You've got to get that. You've got to get that voice out. So you can do it inside of the chain. You can actually do it outside of the chain. You can, like whistleblower nets or make a phone call. You can get the word out. And the leaders that I know in our military are trying to do the right thing. They are trying to do the right thing. And I think you take the moral courage to say what you think. If you're a young enlisted, if you're a senior person, I think it's your responsibility to get the word out. Because this is our national security we're talking about. The stakes are too high.
You might be facing a little bit of a backlash, right?
Okay, and then there are systems and processes.
Yeah.
There are systems and processes
Yeah.
to deal with that also, to where there's no retaliation for getting the word out on a sexual harassment or something that we just know is wrong. I mean, there actually are rules and regs against retaliating for someone who brought that to the forefront. So, again, use your voice, use your channels. I think.
Go ahead, speak up.
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely.
Maybe one
and
more,
I can talk
Kelly?
to you after this if there's a
Yeah.
specific thing that you want to talk about. I'll be happy to talk to you after this.
Kelly, Achebe, and out. So Kelly and then Achebe.
Hi, I'm Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
I just had a quick question on sort of developing your personal, taking us back to sort of the personal leadership. You know, I think inside of me, there's still that little insecure teenager.
Yeah.
I just had a big birthday, and so now I've added to my not list, I'm not young. But how do you get yourself out of that sort of, maybe it's more of a therapy question, but that sort of, I'm not this. You know, I can look at Jacqui and say, I don't speak like Jacqui. I don't have Jacqui's speaking skills. I don't have her presence. I'm not beautiful. I'm not all the things that I admire so much about her. I can look at a host of leaders or a host of people and say, you know, I don't think I have a strong enough voice. I don't think, you know, I'm not. And I think we all have our sort of not list.
Yes.
And that can be such a hindrance to sort of knowing then sort of where you fit in sort of developing your leadership. And I just wondered if either of you had any sort of suggestions on how you sort of get yourself out of that mindset.
I have a really quick one, Kelly, and I wonder what Ronald would say. First I would say to you, every single one of us, and that includes me, has the I'm not list. Really. Everybody does. And sometimes it's because we're looking across at someone and we're like, oh, I'm not that. Or sometimes what we aspire to be is right ahead of us, and all we can see is the back of that thing, and we're like, I'm not that, right? So I think that the interior work, love, it is therapy. But before that, even, it's just, I'm going to just talk about a spiritual practice of affirming ourselves. Now, this is going to sound more woo-woo than you know I am, okay? But I mean it, that I'm in a different space in my life, extroverted as I am, to do more self-talk. So I'm walking to church. I'm not the girl. I'm not the one. I want to be the stretchy one. But I'm walking to church every day, Kelly, looking around the things I pass in our neighborhood and really saying, I am. I'm just saying I am. Like, remember that girl? Is anybody old enough to remember that girl? Diamonds, daisies. Was that right? And she's like, or Mary Tyler Moore, right? I say, I am. I am strong. My legs are fast. I'm breathing. I am gonna get that crap off my desk. I am. So, and it's helping me to not look that way and not look that way, but to look here. And because inside us is what we need. I really think that. A really good book is to read Love Warrior by Glennon Milton now. Did she take the Doyle out? Glennon Doyle. Glennon Doyle, Love Warrior. Just this absolutely beautiful naked book by this crazy woman. Yes. She's crazy. She cray-cray. Come on. She's an addict, you know, crazy. Food stuff. She says she's crazy, so I'm just quoting her. She's so happily married now to a woman with her kids. And so, but she's so honest, Kelly. It really helped me to think. And then also, Dear Sugar. Isn't it? So before therapy, these two good books, Dear Sugar, are these beautiful meditations written by Cheryl Strayed that actually Allison Mickelson turned me on to. Every little essay is like, you're like, what the, that's the smartest, oh my God, that's the smartest thing I ever read. And then Glennon's book is so honest. It just invites us to be honest. What do you think? Yeah.
I am. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I am.
like that a lot.
It's like I'm the greatest.
Might want to write it down.
Yeah,
Might want to write them down.
Yeah.
And play to those strengths. Develop those gifts.
Right.
Develop those gifts.
Yeah.
Write them down and play to those. I think that's well said, Jack.
It's if we were in an institutional place and not pews right now, we'd be saying words like appreciative inquiry. So appreciative inquiry is like, I'm going to look at my system and find out what's good about it, and I'm going to decide what those things are and do more of those things. I think we're called by God to appreciatively inquire ourselves. What am I good at? What have I got here? And in that place where the old black church would be like, God don't make no junk. So it really isn't about us at all at that point. Jerry, though I'm a universalist, I am a Christian universalist who really believes that God is the one who authored us. So if that's true, then what's in here is godly, you know? Achebe, and then out?
Well, your sermon this morning was just like off the chart powerful for me. And it brought together everything that I was trying to say about why I'm here at Middle in terms of, Yeshua and justice together. And I think the thing that you said to me, and it feels like you're saying it to me, and it has been just amplified and reemphasized through this conversation. And you said it also in the newsletter, which was the first hint of it, but then you repeated it today, not nearly as strongly, but it came strongly to me. And that is like, and why did we go to Washington?
Right.
Yeah, not
Because
to be arrested, because it's our time.
Yeah, it's our time.
It's our time. And as a 77-year-old woman who, I've been the rounds, and I've been arrested, and it's like, but it got so clear to me that I've been understanding this since November 9th, but that it's your time again, Ajebe. Okay, it's your time. But it's not just about me. It's just about the way that I can see and hold all of us in this moment. It's our time now. Others have gone before, and they've lain down, and they've been arrested, and they've been killed, and they've been whatever. And then there's the next wave, because this is a relay. This is a relay.
It's a relay.
Okay? Are we up? Yep,
Let's do
we're
it.
up.
Amen.
Loved it.
Chardell, real quick, please. Thank you. Thank you, Chibi. That was beautiful.
Hi. Hi. Again, thank you for the sermon. Thank you for your presence and your words. I just wanted to, this is my leadership moment. I spoke to you earlier about how can people who don't walk so good, hear so good, think so good, how can we be in the fight, in the movement? Because we make a heck of a visual.
Yeah.
So,
Amen, Chardell. We're going to work on that. Somebody else said that right after you said that. Somebody said, that's a great picture. So we are going to work on that. How can we have more and more difference in our movement? And so not only in D.C., but also here in this place. What does it feel like? Martin and I talking about sign. What does it feel like to have more and more people welcoming? So Chardell, we're on it.
And just last thing.
Yeah.
With all that we do and want to do, I think we have to have an economic response, i.e. boycott, if you will, or whatever.
Amen.
In addition to everything we do, we have to learn how to spend our money differently.
Amen.
And not continuing to fund our own destruction.
Amen. Ronald and I have had a mom named Emily, a grandma named Luella Edwards, who had a brother named George Edwards. So our great Uncle George was friends with Fannie Lou Hamer and walked all around Mississippi registering people to vote. A civil disobedient kind of guy. So we come by this leadership stuff naturally. And I wanted to give you a chance to have the last word.
Now, thanks for setting this up. And it's just good to reflect on your leadership models. How did you get there? And it's good to retell the stories. It really is just good to retell the stories. And it reminds you and keeps you grounded. And I enjoy sitting here next to you, Jacqui, and telling the stories. And I hope everybody got something out of that today. So
Thank you,
you're
Lev.
lovely, and thank you very much for having me here.
We got to do this together.
How about that?
Yay!